You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Well, you might have heard it on the grapevine, but we have made the call right now that Typhoon Haishen, after a extraordinary rapid intensification phase, now matches the Category 5 threshold on satellite imagery. Satellite estimates now up to 160 miles per hour. We're going with it because of the storm's extraordinary appearance, with an eye temperature of plus 18 degrees Celsius and cloud tops wrapping around the whole eye, exceeding minus 70 degrees Celsius in pretty much all locations, with quite a few areas of minus 80 as well. The JTWC at the last update went with 145 miles per hour. That was 2 or 3 hours ago now, or maybe just one actually. But this storm's been intensifying so quickly that they've barely been able to keep up. The ATCF updated more than once to account for the storm's intensity increase. And, well, this is perhaps a slight bit of a surprise. We knew this storm was going to be strong, but whether it was going to get to Category 5 and so soon seemed in some doubt. In any case, my name is Nathan Foy, and on this live update for mainly Typhoon Haishen, but we'll have the other areas covered as well. I'm joined by David, Mike, Ethan, and Thomas. Good evening to you all.
Good afternoon.
And welcome aboard. So we've made this call right now. There's been quite a lot of discussion about whether it actually is at that stage or not. It's very close at the very least. Satellites suggesting that it's just crossed the threshold to 160 miles per hour. Devon was talking about it earlier, thinks it could be even slightly higher than that. And it probably will be soon, the way it's going.
Yeah, I can agree with that. ADT and SATCOM last, which are objective estimates through computers, both have it at 155,926 right now. But we do have AMSU, which I believe just called it a CAF 5.
Oh, have they?
And we also have some other satellite members which have called it a CAF 5. I believe RAM multi-platform, which tends to make these things way too low, has it at 150 miles per hour. So upping that by 5 to 10 knots, which is pretty normal to do, would also get you to 160. Not only that, but Dvorak supports it.
Does it?
And I believe Sateed supports it as well.
Yeah, Sateed went on board in the last hour, yeah.
Yeah, so Sateed, Dvorak, if you run it yourself, and ADT all support or very close to supporting 160. It's definitely borderline right now, but I think that within the next couple of hours, it won't be a borderline case anymore.
It's certainly looking that way, and as you can see, daylight starting to appear on the storm now on this Himawari rapid scan imagery. It's looking very good. The eye, even now as we're watching it live almost, is continuing to get a better shape about it by the looks of things, and there were one or two little gaps in the eye wall earlier on in the last 2 or 3 hours, but they seem to have all been eradicated mostly, with some very good cloud tops all around this eye. It's a bit of a beast right now.
I would certainly agree with that.
David?
The Joint Typhoon Warning Center, I'm just reading their technical information. The 89 gigahertz microwave image depicts a compact eye wall approximately 120 nautical miles diameter, with spiral banding over the southern and eastern semicircles. And the eye is 20 nautical miles. And some interesting information from the center about the steering mechanism, and it looks like it's going to stall. I'm not saying the typhoon is going to stall, but um, the steering mechanism. So
Well, it's eventually it's going to get sucked up towards the northwest. It's not moving particularly fast at the moment, buying it a little bit of time. By Sunday morning, I believe it is local time, is when the storm will be moving over the southernmost Japanese islands. So, considering that we're only just entering Friday morning, that's another 2 days that this storm has over 28 to 30 degree waters. Having said that, wind shear is at pretty much of its lowest ebb right now, and it will start to increase.
Absolutely. On our forecast count that we made earlier, we ran with the peak of 165 miles per hour. That was forecast to be there in around 9 hours or so from now. Based on it already probably being a Category 5 or very close to it, I'd probably honestly up that to 175 just based on how it's looking. It needs a little bit of work on its eye, and the eye temperature needs to rise a little bit, but other than that, it's pretty close.
Getting better by the hour, though.
Considering the rapid improvement in satellite, I wouldn't be shocked if within the next couple of hours we're seeing a 165, 175 estimate from satellite. I mean, raw estimates right now, according to Devin on Dvorak, already support 175.
No.
So if this holds appearance with it for 6 hours or so, he said he'd be comfortable with 175.
Wow.
So I think that's a little aggressive right now with its current appearance, but I certainly think that it's with its appearance improving, it could be reasonable to suspect that this will intensify within the next 12 hours to 175.
Maybe, but once it gets past the 36-hour period from now, it'll probably start to weaken as wind shear starts to increase and probably an hour replacement cycle. Well, yes, around 24 hours ago, we were looking at a pretty small eye of a rapidly intensifying storm. It did undergo an hour replacement cycle, which is quite shocking because even through the hour replacement cycle, it still somewhat rapidly intensified. It didn't intensify as quickly as it did today, but it still intensified, and that's quite remarkable.
And that's when, really, to me, it got that look, that look of the storm that's going to be really strong. It was already going through Category 3 status at that point. JTWC had it as a high-end Cat 2. I was pretty sure it would have been a Cat 3, though. And it was going. It was going, and here it is now, just about reaching Category 5 status.
However,
Nathan,
despite its intensity... Go ahead, David.
No, you go.
Okay. Well, despite its Category 5 intensity, this will probably weaken significantly as it approaches the Korean Peninsula. And I think that it's pretty reasonable to forecast a landfall in around 3 to 4 days from now with winds of 100 miles per hour. That's a low-end Category 2, I should say, on the Saffir-Simpson scale.
So how'd you come by that conclusion, then?
I'm just looking at the overall conditions in the atmosphere, especially when it comes to rising wind shear and the sea surface temperatures, especially after Bavi and Maysak passed over the area. So those conditions have obviously deteriorated significantly.
So yeah, the run up to South Korea, once it passes Okinawa and such, the Amami Islands will really start to go down.
Yep.
I think there is the possibility of a major typhoon landfall in South Korea, though. The GEFS in particular has numerous ensembles with the 941 to 948 millibar storm making landfall. So
now,
I think that there's a lot of reason.
Regarding that, the storm's going to be quite far north, and it's going to be turning post-tropical at the same time. So the pressure's going to be quite low, but the winds, I think, are going to be lower as well. And I think that this was observed during Maysak.
I'd be inclined to agree with that. I think that a 115, 947, though, wouldn't be unreasonable that far north.
Perhaps.
So we'll see. if I were in South Korea right now, I would be expecting a Category 2 landfall, but I would be preparing for a Category 3 landfall. You know, preparing for the worst case scenario is best in these kinds of situations. And then for those islands south of Japan, the mainland of Japan, they could just get slammed with a high-end Category 4 super typhoon. So if you're on those southern islands, you need to be preparing now. You've got about 3 days to do so, less than 3 days to do so, before this storm arrives.
Very curious track of this storm so far as well.
Yeah, that track of the storm with its initial movement, and it started moving southwestward. That was strange, and it's almost like it's going to kind of make a U shape here. Within the next year or so, the track will make kind of a U shape. So it is kind of bizarre, but it looks like in the end the track will still have that rapid northward movement. I do have to say, I think it's quite remarkable that the past three tropical cyclones in the Western Pacific have all become majors and are all going to hit South Korea
same
or
place.
near it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
One other thing about this storm in particular is it's already got a pretty sizable wind field, and it's going to be quite an enormous wind field by the time it gets to southern Japan.
Joint typhoon warnings, and I think they're saying the wind field out to 100, 120 miles.
Now, I know early on in this storm's life, when it was only just starting to intensify, we already had CDPS ratings bordering on stage 8. I don't know what it is now, but I imagine it's pretty high.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'll see if I can figure that out for you, Nathan.
Thank you very much. In any case, if we've got, if you have any questions for us during this hour of discussion on predominantly Typhoon Haishen, but we'll have a look at the Atlantic shortly, send a message. Start your message with Force 13 all in text in the comments section. Let's take a look now at elsewhere around the world. This is how the Atlantic's looking right now. Omar, still hanging on.
Yeah, we have a tropical.
Probably the biggest shock there.
Yeah, the fact that Omar's still alive is quite. It's quite a shock, and that low-level center is actually looking quite good. And we have a feature to its northeast as well, which is looking quite interesting. I don't think that will develop, but there's been some chatter about it, and so that's definitely something that's
There's been moderate chatter about it for about 3 or 4 days at least.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's not out of the question that it could develop. I mean, you know, if we have another named storm in the subtropics, that's just another ticker to the count,
yep.
You know?
Yep, that would be a pretty pathetic peace storm, though. And then you can see down in the African region, the Eastern Atlantic, 2 areas of interest, soon to be 3. Let me just check this is actually up to date, because it looks suspiciously old to me. No, it is up to date. So you've got those areas right now. Much broader area to the east. That's the one that National Hurricane Center think will develop with the highest chance, at least 70%. In the next 5 days. That area to its west, they're giving that a moderate chance, 40% in 5 days, and they think that an area will emerge off the African coast over Cape Verde, most likely, 20% chance in 5 days.
Yeah, so it's looking like an active Atlantic. We thought this would happen. It's currently happening. I'm surprised that we only have 2040 on that low in the Central Atlantic, especially with how organized it's been looking over the past couple of days. I think that those chances will go up with time.
Here's an infrared look.
Now we take a look at that.
Just an infrared look right now at Omar, with its convection being well sheared southwards, and that feature to its northeast, which honestly doesn't look half bad. Could be a brief subtropical or tropical cyclone. Wouldn't surprise me in a year like this. It's just general tropical messiness everywhere, really, isn't there? You look at the Caribbean, there's little bits of convection all over the place. And then you've got Nana, which is down to a tropical depression over Guatemala now, I believe, and not too far from entering the eastern Pacific basin. I don't think it will quite survive as a cyclone, but some of its energy could transfer into another storm.
Yeah, for sure. Nana is going to be, as it heads into the Eastern Pacific, could definitely pose a threat of either redevelopment or, like Nathan said, being used to kick off another storm. I wouldn't be surprised to see that within the next 10 days or so. But we'll see what happens. Right now, it looks like conditions in particular are favorable for the Western Pacific and Atlantic to really get going. But the Eastern Pacific isn't looking all that good right now.
No, it hasn't all year.
No.
It hasn't.
I mean,
It's, you know, if it's going to be worse than 2010, it's not even had the Cat 5 that 2010 had. Celia.
that's true. You're sorry if I'm being quiet. I'm calculating CDPS at the moment.
Oh, I'm
so,
sorry. We'll give you some peace there. Ethan, do you want to say something?
He's not here right now.
He's not. What's going on around here? Mike, how about you?
Yes, a very dangerous situation unfolding. I wasn't really aware of the what was going on in the Western Pacific because I had gone camping and I had no internet for about thinking, oh look, something could happen in the Westpac. Then coming back just an hour ago to a Category 5, and you know what the heck happened? I mean, caught us all off guard.
Intensification.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm just in shock with the system. I have no words right now with the system.
All right, let's take some questions then. How bad would surge be for the typhoon? The thing is about surge in these locations, it's not quite as bad as you would normally get because of the land masses themselves. They're all, the coastlines are typically very steep, so inundation is not quite as big an issue. There are, of course, some areas that do get inundation pretty bad, but Japan isn't really one of those, certainly not in the south. Korea, perhaps in a few areas there. And this one could be pretty big for surge, certainly, like some of the worst storms that have impacted South Korea, should this forecast come true. And we're going to take just relevant questions at the moment. There's a few not so relevant ones. Will Haishen be the same strength as Dorian? Not without recon planes in there, is my honest answer to that one. Who knows what the intensity of this storm really is, and this is why it's still not as an exact science as we want it to be, because there's no recon planes in this storm. There won't be. So we're relying on satellite estimates alone. That's been the case since 1987. And we are looking at what looks like a Category 5 on satellite imagery, but we'll never know because there are no direct observations until it reaches the Japanese islands, and most likely it won't be at peak by that point. But regards to whether it's anywhere near Dorian, probably not. Its pressure might match it. Why does the Western Pacific have more storms and hurricanes? A much bigger ocean, warmer ocean, an ocean that's more widespread in those warm sea surface temperatures. Its heat capacity is much higher, so the energy capacity is also much higher, and some seasons can get over 35 storms in a year. The busiest ones. Can Invest 91L and Disturbance 2 merge? I've not been paying much attention to the Invest names, so I wonder if someone can help me out here, which one's which. Invest 91.
91L is that 2040
off Africa.
System, I believe.
No.
Doesn't look likely.
It's the western one, isn't it? 36
yeah.
degrees east at west. Yeah, the western one.
Yeah.
So that's 91L, whether it will get swallowed up by Disturbance 2. Models are suggesting that Disturbance 2 to its east will overshoot Invest 91 to the north and then go off westwards. 91L will sort of shrink beneath it to the south and will remain afterwards. It'll be a very interesting scenario to watch him play here because it's a combination that you don't really see.
Yeah, I do have the CDPS calculation. It remains a stage 8 on the CDPS scale.
Stage 8 on that 10-tiered scale. Catastrophic, maybe even worse than that if there was a word for it. Extreme maybe. And not only will there be potentially Category 5 winds by the time it reaches the islands, no guarantee of that just yet. But storm surge, as mentioned, an enormous wind field. And how much rain are you expecting there, Thomas?
That is going with a conservative 14 inches.
14 inches, which in millimeters, trying to work that one out, about 350 millimeters of rain. When do we think that the two disturbances in the main development region will develop into tropical cyclones respectively? I suppose that's an interesting question. That's probably the one with least certainty right now, is the timing of these two systems.
Nathan, I'm just reading the 2-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the NHC. Picking up on what you said, a tropical wave currently located off the... hang on, we'll go back. There's a broad area low pressure located over the eastern tropical Atlantic, several hundred miles west-southwest of the Gay Verde Islands, producing a small area of disorganised showers.
That's the one on the left, right?
They have that gradual development possible early next week as the larger tropical wave located off the coast of Africa passes to the north of the system on a Sunday. They have it at 40% over the next 5 days. Then,
quite a bit of uncertainty in the whole thing.
Yeah, and then we've got another tropical wave located off the coast of West Africa. It's merging with another disturbance located a couple of hundred miles south of the Cape Verde Islands, resulting in extensive area disorganised showers and thunderstorms.
It definitely is.
Development of this system is likely to be slow during the next couple of days while it moves west-northwest at about 15 miles per hour. After that, a tropical depression is more likely to form early next week over the central tropical Atlantic.
They think both of them will be early next week then?
And they have the one that's going to merge at 70%.
Yep. Yeah, the big one, they've got that, the highest chance.
And then there's another one coming off the west coast of Africa over the weekend. So, and
this is what peak hurricane season looks like.
Yeah, so we could actually have 3 following each other, or following the leader. But
and I think some models, weren't they saying that we get a big 3 or more storms than that?
I cited some, I don't know whether it's a Twitter platform or it might be inside our server, but like you said, peak season. And
you can communicate on our Discord server, live chat there as well, discord.gg/force13. Let's see if we've got some more questions then. There are plenty, actually. Can the system of northeast of Omar become subtropical? I think it could. You can see it there on the infrared imagery. Still got a little ways to go, but can't rule that out. Do any disturbances look to be heading into the Gulf? Not just yet, but definitely keep watching the Gulf all month long, I would say. Is there an invest or an area of interest in the southern hemisphere? David, have you spotted anything?
Yes, we have
Yeah.
91S, Mateo France La Reunion, and Indonesian Met Office. They have nothing. But the vorticity is looking better each day. The Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, they have it at low for development. So, and it's to the east of Diego Garcia, and the biometeorology, they haven't got anything at this point in time. But the tracks and the models are showing it's going to track to the west or west northwest.
All right, so the top story, though, is Typhoon Haishen, which, according to satellite estimates, has reached Category 5 status. The first one to do so in the Western Pacific this year. The last Category 5 in the Western Pacific was... Was it how long?
Yes.
And
How long,
this
yes.
is the first Category 5 storm worldwide since Ampan.
Nathan, read the typhoon. What's the pressure are you giving it?
We're giving it 925 right now.
Well, the JMA, they have it 9:15
They've got it down at 915 now?
for today, and they have it increasing to 9:20. But
Hold
I'm
on a minute.
rating.
No,
that's,
that's their forecast,
no,
David.
that's the forecast.
They currently have it much weaker at 10-minute sustained winds of 100 miles per hour, pressure down to 950. So a lot weaker.
They've got it at 915 millibars 2 days from now.
950.
950 now, yes, but they're going to say 915 in 2 days. If that, you know, if you're extrapolating that, the JMA think there's going to be rapid intensification from now until 2 days' time. Can you imagine if that also happened? That would be crazy.
Nathan, I'm waiting to see what their next advisory is going to say. The Joint Typhoon Warning Centre is actually doing 3 hourly.
I'd be surprised if
Joint
that's the case.
Typhoon
The
Joint Typhoon Warning Center, actually, their satellite fixed bulletin at, I'm just trying to look at the time here. It was at 2050Z.
Yep.
Or just past, just a few hours ago. They gave it a T7.0, which is a Category 5. So it looks like that they may run with that at their next update.
Yep, they added a 1.0 I adjustment to yield a Dvorak of 7.0. That's Category 5 status, so a lot of satellites are suggesting, a lot of satellite estimates are suggesting that it's now reached Category 5 status. If not, I imagine it's coming very shortly. We've already made the call, and more strengthening could happen as it approaches the Japanese islands.
and
Yes.
the South Korean Met service, they have it strong. Then they have it increasing to very strong.
Will this storm cause a lot of damage? Well, the best thing you can do is damage mitigation techniques. You know, it would be very helpful if you can, if you're in the path of a storm, to secure all loose objects. Because projectiles can cause a lot of damage on their own. And will Haishen cause the Three Gorges Dam to collapse? It's going the wrong way for that. It's not going to the Three Gorges Dam. Why did Recon stop going into typhoons? Well, they say it was because computers are good enough that for satellites, the computers and satellites are good enough to make intensity determinations as of 1987. Some people a bit more cynical than me suggest that it was just that was just an excuse and it was a funding cut. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go into it, but they stopped it. Do we think
should have kept it?
Yeah, they should have kept it. Do you think that the storm near the Yucatan can become a disturbance in the next few days? It's something we've been monitoring, actually. I don't know what you think about that little area, Ethan. There is some convection blowing up on the Yucatan Peninsula right now.
I haven't looked at it, but just based on models, because I've been having a look at models over the past few days, I don't think that's going to develop into anything significant.
No.
It does have a robust, almost kind of wave axis to it. Although that's probably going to be temporary. That convection will probably die down this evening into the overnight hours. I think that burst of convection, especially like the burst we saw earlier today, I think that's really going to die down. I don't see this developing really at all. There's no model support for it, and the conditions in the Gulf of Mexico, especially with that front that's coming up, the shear is just going to be too high. I don't see it developing.
It's an interesting question. When is the western disturbance expected to actually start moving? It's a good question, because that wave will overtake it behind this system, which you can't say is that common. So I imagine it's not going to move very much, and it's going to be a slow southward trend for the next, 3 days? Maybe
Yeah,
4?
just about.
I just had a look at the GFS run, and it shows something extremely, extremely interesting.
Could we see it?
Yeah, it's on my screen right
Oh,
now.
let's
and
see.
I'll
Let's
play it
get
here.
that right here.
So here, you have that western system, and you have that system emerging off of Africa that has a 70% chance of development. And what's interesting is the GFS moves the 91L, as it's dubbed, southwest a little bit, and it just kind of keeps it there for a few days, and then moves it northeast as the Cape Verde system becomes a tropical cyclone. Another one emerges off Africa, and then it develops 91L into a tropical cyclone in around 5 days from now. And then it
Then it
stalls there
gets
for a little bit.
overtaken by the other one. As it dissipates. That's
And then you can also see an Asia Pacific system as well. Long range, of course.
is that generating from Nana? I think it
Probably
might.
not.
Some of its
There might be
energy.
some energy. Yeah.
Some of old Nan's energy is going to become that Eastern Pacific tropical storm.
Ethan, does the model that we're looking at show an emerging of the one in front?
Eventually, yes. However, models have been absolutely all over the place with that system, so it could do what the GFS is saying here and get absorbed by any system, honestly.
Yep.
Or it could absorb one of them, or both of them.
No, it can't do that.
I know that the icon model was actually showing that a few days ago, so.
Crikey.
Can we have a look at that?
We'll pull
No,
up the
that.
icon.
Oh, okay.
We'll pull up
And
the
also,
icon now.
I'm noting the strength for that high too. I think what was it? The GFS was showing 1038.
I think so.
There's the icon model.
Yeah, you can see there's 91L. There's a system that has a 70% chance of development, and it absorbs that. And then, what the heck is it doing there?
Folks, we just received a super chat.
Oh, that's amazing. Where's that coming from? Oh, Ali saying that they love the work that we do. That's wonderful. I mean, we work very hard day and night at the moment, especially being in Code Red. For 11 out of the last 14 days, which is quite something.
Something that I do note along the models here is the overwhelming consistency that in around 5 days' time, we'll have a tropical cyclone or 2 or even 3 potentially in the Atlantic.
Gosh.
So,
Would we be able to take a look at the one of the models for the Western Pacific, though, what they say about Haishen now?
I'll pull
The
up
GFS has just come out, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'll pull up the HWR first off because I like to use.
Oh boy. Here's HWRF.
It's actually
There wa-
saying only 125 knots.
Wow,
actually.
it's way behind the curve.
Let's have a look at the GFS now and let's see what it says.
By the way, latest satellite shows Haishen's cloud tops are waning a
Oh,
bit.
no.
Minus 80s are no longer anywhere to be found around the eye.
To be honest, that does often happen when the eye clears out, and it is continuing to clear out.
The eye temperature is now at about 18, so it's...
Yep, it was 18 about an hour ago as well, so it's kept that at least.
Yes, that it has.
GFS
gonna-
is. Go ahead, David.
Go on. I was just going to ask, are we going to see eyewall replacement process?
Not just yet. Let's get back to some
regarding
satellite
the-
imagery.
Regarding the GFS, at least, it suggests that it only has about 42 hours or so to deepen. It deepens it down to 924 millibars.
And deepen is the key word there, but considering it's already 9:25, Ethan, what does it initialize the storm at?
The first frame is hour 6, and it has it at 932.
Oh, not much higher then. But is that 6 hours from now? When is that? For zero Z?
That's at 0Z.
Okay, so it's predicted that not too badly. So, yeah, wind shear will start to increase tomorrow, so the storm's peak most likely will happen in the next 24 hours. Its wind peak, and then its pressure peak might yet come later because of the storm's expansion.
Yeah, that
Thomas,
is a
would you like to
reasonable-
explain reasons why a pressure peak might follow the wind peak?
Yeah, so there are a couple of reasons for this, and there are actually some reasons why vice versa may occur as well. But the pressure peak can follow a wind peak because, especially with storms like these, what'll happen is as they move poleward, they're going to broaden. And so let's say that you had a storm with a 10 nautical mile eye and a storm with a 30 nautical mile eye, just for reference. So you had a storm that was 3 times bigger than the other. If they both had the same pressure, the smaller storm would actually have higher wind speeds. So if you have a 925 millibar storm that is significantly smaller than a 920 millibar storm, you're actually going to get faster wind speeds with a higher pressure just because the area of influence the storm has is smaller, so the pressure gradient is bigger.
And
And a
that's all,
prime
and pressure really does correlate to the wind, doesn't it? How tightly packed the isobars are.
Yeah, that's nearly a direct correlation to how strong those winds are going to be.
Certainly, a prime example of that would be a comparison, say, Andrew and Katrina. The pressure differences between, Andrew was 175, and I believe it was at 922 was lowest confirmed,
Mm-hmm.
and Katrina was 901, and obviously you could see the size comparison and why Katrina was lower and Andrew was higher.
Decent comparison. There might be a few better ones out there in the Western Pacific, but I can't think of any offhand. But nonetheless, what we've got right now is what looks like a 160 mile an hour Category 5 typhoon. Isn't it the first super typhoon of the year as well?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe so. Also, some new news that just came in, SATCON has gone from 155 to 160 miles per hour now.
So is that all of the satellite methods now, or we still?
So
working?
ADT actually has backed off a little bit.
Oh.
It's back to 155.
Interesting.
SATCON is at 160, and AMSU has been fluctuating between 130 and 160. So it doesn't know what's going on.
What?
So I
How?
would discount that.
Crikey.
Well, it's at 130 right now, so
One to.
I would discount that.
I guess
for
the
now.
JMA will use that one.
I would assume so.
There we go. The storm's movement at the moment still west-northwest, fairly slow, but the eye continuing to clear out in those latest frames. 18 degrees is what we saw. But Thomas, even though the eye wall cloud tops have waned, and you can see it on this imagery as well, it would appear that the structure has got better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The structure has been rapidly improving, and you're still seeing high minus 70s around the entirety of that eye. So it's not like those cloud tops are low. They're actually quite high, especially compared to most other storms we've had this year.
Mhm.
So still a really robust eye wall, and I wouldn't be surprised to see after that eye finishes clearing out, those cloud tops get back to where they once were. And we could see an even stronger storm. I mean, this storm has about 12 to 24 hours left to really rapidly strengthen, and then gradual intensification is still possible for about 12 more hours before shear really starts to go up.
Of course, that's given that it doesn't immediately owl replacement cycle. It
Well,
won't, though.
well, even if it does have an eye wall replacement cycle, that could take a long time. That would actually be more bad news than good news. That would mean that the wind field would be absolutely absurd. It would probably
Hmm.
get even bigger than what's currently projected if there was an unforeseen eye wall replacement cycle. So that might actually be more bad news than good news. And the CDPS scale really takes into account how large that wind field is. So if that wind field got even bigger, that could really ramp up
Oh,
just how high that rating gets.
just in case you don't know, and this is the first I've seen it, a viewer mentioned it. The latest Euro model ECMWF by 12Z Friday, which is 13 hours, 14 hours from now, has this storm at 9:02.
Wow. 902.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Holy
I'm going to take a
cow.
look at that and see if I can find that.
I've just seen it for myself. It definitely says that.
Wow. Okay, that's and how far out is this from now?
About 13 hours.
So, wow, it's still saying that this could. Yeah, so I mean that's not even entirely unrealistic at this point.
Oh no. That was the 12Z initialization. It initialized at 9:62. And that's a 60 millibar drop in 24 hours.
That's absolutely insane.
What is actually interesting though as well though after that 9:02 peak, it looks like ECMWF are suggesting that it might move a bit more slowly than expected, allowing it to weaken a bit more before reaching the Japanese islands themselves.
Well, that's at least a piece of good news.
But you're still looking at 934 millibars at landfall on the Amami Islands. So
Yeah,
that's
that
probably
you are.
that's a category 4, and then don't know because of the low resolution time resolution on there, but 962 by the time it reaches the border with North Korea. By
Yeah,
that
it's just
point, probably a category 1 high end.
yeah, but overall, this is looking like some bad news when it comes to Japan and South Korea. I'd be bracing if I were in Japan for a Category 4, and I'd be bracing for a Category 3 if I were in South Korea.
How close?
Just a minute, David. I'd just also like to mention that the ECMWF on day 9 and 10 has at least 4 systems active in the Atlantic, possibly 5.
Wow, really?
Yep. So
And
I
just
see that.
things are really getting going.
What, Nathan, you're looking at a model. Can you just switch over to the North Indian?
Okay, what's going on there? Anything?
A possible area of interest in coming days. Although the typhoon, I was going to ask
You might have a point, actually.
how close is the typhoon going to get to Sasebo or Kyushu?
Well, it will get very close to Kyushu. Where was the other place?
Sasebo, Saseba.
I'm not sure where that is. Is that on the Ryukyu Island chain?
I think that might be next door to it or to the south, but apparently there's some uncertainty in the models which are in.
Oh, that's on Kyushu.
And the models are saying there's Joy Typhoon Warning Centre is saying 100 nautical mile spread in solutions at the 72-hour mark.
It will make a big difference for some parts of the Japanese coastline, yeah, those 100 miles. And
the JTWC is saying in their current advisory, it's forecast to reach super typhoon strength shortly, and it's expected to maintain this intensity through the next 36 hours.
Well, I'd like to thank whoever it was that made me look at the Indian Ocean, because it does look like there could be a tropical cyclone in the South Indian Ocean in a day or two.
Yeah, the vorticity's looking very healthy for FS 91S.
Oh, is that what it is? I'm so out of the loop. 91S.
91S, east of Diego Garcia.
Yep, that's the one. So that's also a thing. Much to our disbelief.
Is it a Bay of Bengal? There was someone closer.
I don't see anything in the North Indian.
Sea.
Oh, the
Nothing?
South China Sea. No.
No. The rest is no. I'll give up.
Yep, give up on that one. We know David is desperate for his first Australian storm of the season yet to come.
Out of season.
It is out of season, so.
Yeah. October. We had one over near Fiji, or the Solomon Islands, back in, what was it, October 2018.
There was one in September.
September.
Liua.
Yep.
Yeah, that was during Florence. Was it Florence? Yeah, I think it was during Florence Mancote, wasn't it?
Actually, I think it was later. But
anyway,
try and keep up all these systems.
Going a bit off topic there, but
yep.
If you've just joined us, satellite estimates suggesting that this storm, Typhoon Haishen, has rapidly intensified, and according to most satellites at this point, is a Category 5, the first one of the Western Pacific season this year, with winds of 160 miles per hour and an estimated central pressure of 925 millibars. That's the best we've got in this part of the world, satellite estimates, at least at sea. No recon in the Western Pacific, only observations are on land and those a few points at sea, whether it's ships or whether it's weather buoys as well. Sometimes you can get buoy measurements.
Nathan, any chance you could bring up the rapid scan?
This is the rapid. What is that? What the hell was that? Did you hear anything? I've no idea what that was.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, gremlins in the system. It wasn't mine, I could say. Sometimes you can get... And now I can hear myself. Okay. Have we got...
I think that it's coming from Mike.
Ah. We'll just press the mute button on that.
Having a bit of system trouble. I'll go ahead and fix that.
Thank you very much. Would be much obliged. So this is the rapid scan imagery, David, that we are looking at right now. This visible, and you can see how nice it's looking on these latest frames. Certainly,
yeah, I mean the storm on visible was looking impeccable. Really, it's not. I guess it's not impeccable, but it's looking really good. That eye is clearing out very quickly, and. The storm is only improving in appearance, really, from here. Structure looks excellent. Overall, it's looking quite great. And it appears that we have a Leahy on board now.
Oh, hello, Ryan. How are you?
Hello. Good evening. Good morning to everyone on the east coast of Asia that are in the path of what I think is Super Typhoon Haishen. It's not officially a Super Typhoon
I know
yet,
it's
but
remarkably still not officially one, but the satellite estimates have clearly a Category 5. I think you also shaved off everyone's ears there, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Mike
sorry.
came down.
I can
Your
fiddle.
mic is
I can
quite
fiddle
loud.
with your volume so the viewers don't notice, but I think our team are
I
worse
just
for
got
wear.
a new mic, so I apologize if there are any issues there. Um, but yeah, Haishen has really intensified over the past few hours. It was underwent eye wall replacement cycle earlier, and now it is it has cleared out its eye really quickly, and I'm pretty surprised that it intensified this quickly.
Do you think there's more on the way?
Well, from what I have seen, the storm still has probably, still good 36 hours to intensify. It's just, it all will depend on what the storm wants to do, I guess.
I think wind shear will start to get a bit unfavourable within 24 hours. I think today, local time, is when it's going to shine the most.
Yeah,
But
probably.
we are not too far from the end of our discussion, so we want more viewers to send in questions that we can answer live on the air about any of the systems. Typhoon Haishen is the main story tonight or today, wherever you are around the world. Category 5, according to satellite estimates, that's what we're running with, and expected to impact Japan and the Korean Peninsula yet again. Another typhoon impacting these areas. 3 in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2.
Well, there's Bobby, and then Maysak, and now Haishen, so that's 3, significant typhoons, actually, within the span of about almost like a week and a half, I think, because Bobby was that was like around the same time that Hurricane Laura was impacting the U.S. Gulf Coast, so that was like a week ago, or just a little over a week
We're
ago.
so losing track of time right now.
Yeah, it's the
hurricane
busy
season.
time. Yeah,
That's all we know.
right.
It's the busy time, and there's the rest of the Atlantic as you see on the image. If you've got any questions about those systems, we'll do our best, but it's a very uncertain scenario, especially concerning those Eastern Atlantic systems. Why is there no recon in the Western Pacific? Because the JTWC or NOAA or whoever it is that are funding the recon flights stopped doing it. They stopped. But as I said, in 1987, long time ago now, the reason written was that apparently computers and satellite estimates were now good enough as of 1987 to not warrant recon planes. But the more time goes on, the more we see how useful they are in the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, the more that sounds like a bit of a cop-out. But there we go. Do we think that 91S could hit the northeast at some point? I think you mean 91L. I suppose it can get a bit confusing. 91L there is on the left-hand side of these Atlantic disturbances. Could it head towards the northeast? I guess some ensembles suggesting it could get to the US East Coast, but at the minute you would put the chances less than 10% right now.
I'd put it at 1%. It's way too far out to say what that system will do. Way too far out.
Can the system... we've already had this question once, but... well, sort of. Can the system northeast of Omar become subtropical? Let's get some more thoughts from our team on that one, because you've seen that system, I assume. Thomas pointed it out first on tonight's stream. Northeast of Omar. Omar is still holding on, clinging on as a tropical depression, still with that convection, which is just, well, it's almost gone. But to its northeast there, you've got that other system. What do we think?
I guess I'll just start and restate what I thought at the beginning of the hour, because that hasn't really changed. It's a good-looking circulation right now on visible imagery. There's not much convection around it. If it moves southward enough, it could close off that center and become a subtropical depression or storm for a little bit. If it were to do so, which I think is quite unlikely, I'd give it a 10 to 20% chance of occurring. That would be really, I think the only thing of significance is that it would be the next name in the record-breaking activity of the Atlantic season. I think that would really be the only reason that it would be significant to any of us at that point.
Completely. And we still got to remind ourselves that even with the addition of Hurricane Laura, we're still behind on ACE, aren't we still at this point?
I believe so, yeah. Because 2005, I mean, we'd had Dennis already. We already had Emily, and that was a Cat 4 and a Cat 5 right there, both fairly long track. We've had Katrina by this point. I mean, we've had numerous major hurricanes by this point already in the 2005 season. So I
And
think
we're not that far above
quite a
it.
bit.
Get this, right? Named storms in the Atlantic right now, so far, 15. Which is remarkable. Guess what the average is by this point?
What's
I
that?
think it's like 4. It's 5. I think 5.
Nearly 6, 5.6.
Oh, okay.
So it's 3 times ahead almost. Named storm days as well, 42 so far. The average at this point is 22. That's it's almost double the amount of storm activity in terms of days. Hurricane days is actually a little bit less than average though, only 6, and the average is nearly 8. Major hurricanes are on track. Just hurricanes 5, the average is 2.3 by this point. But the ACE, we're at 45, the average is 36, so it's hardly hyperactive.
Oh yeah, and I guess that then breeds the question: what would you define as hyperactive? I think
It's usually defined by ACE, isn't it?
I don't actually know.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's usually defined by ACE. I don't know the exact threshold that NOAA uses, but I think it's like, I want to say it's like 160 something. I'll look it up right now.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. It is. Hold on a minute. Wait.
Oh,
Where did
another
it
minute.
go?
Let's get some more questions while she go get that. Why do the Philippines give storms 152?
152.5 apparently.
Wow.
It's above 165% of the 1981 to 2010 median.
Very
so,
precise.
Yeah.
Why do the Philippines give storms a second name? You know what? I don't actually know the answer to that, but they've been doing it for a very long time. Decades.
And when was the last Maysac?
What?
We've had that one's come around twice now. I remember the last
Yeah,
one.
Maysac, the one that is now post-tropical, the one that went through Korea in the last yesterday. Yes, the last Maysac was one that we also covered, one of our first ever live streams on the Force 13 channel. Typhoon Maysac in 2015. That became a Category 5 on March 31st. Which is a bit rare, very rare actually, and then hit the Philippines as a Category 1 in the end. But there we have it. But Maysac's gone. It's Haishen now. Haishen formed in 2015 as well, right after Maysac. It was a weak tropical storm that year, but here it is now, really going for it. And what we think is a Category 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Satellite estimates, for the most part, agree. Any final comments from the team? Well, I was pretty much up.
This
storm is...
Go ahead, Thomas.
This storm is extremely dangerous. Haishen's going to be delivering to the Ryukyu Islands very high storm surge, extremely dangerous winds, and very heavy rainfall. So any preparations that can be made should be made Sooner rather than later, you should be preparing for a Category 4 with winds of above 150 miles per hour. If you're in South Korea, you should be preparing for a storm with winds above 115 miles per hour. It's very large, could churn up still Category 4 like storm surge due to its sheer size, and could also give you tropical storm force winds for over a day.
Yep. So, and just quick conversions there in kilometers per hour right now. 160 miles per hour is about 255 kilometers per hour. The Japanese islands, some of them could get 240 kilometer per hour winds. And on the Korean Peninsula, some of those areas could get up to 185. That's sustained. Ethan, you wanted to say something as well.
Well, most of my thoughts were pretty similar to what Thomas was saying, but the storm is still intensifying, believe it or not, at this time. Wouldn't surprise me if the JTWC run with a Category 5 at their next update, which is due in around 4 hours from now.
If it keeps looking like this, if it starts to deteriorate at all, I think they might bottle it and stay at 155, but we'll see. ATCF information will come out in about an hour's time, but we won't be there for that. We're going off the air now. We will probably have more video updates coming soon on our YouTube channel, so stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't already, and follow our social platforms. That's all from us tonight. We'll be back again with more tropical updates and live events, probably very soon indeed. We're not sure on the schedule just yet, but I'm sure tomorrow's going to be another busy day. Have a good night.